Yes, good evening. My name is Wallace Gator Bradley. And as you all know, that this show is made possible by the grace of God and by the chairman of United in Peace, Inc. You know, I'm the president of United in Peace, Inc. She's also the producer, the director. She finds the talent. She do so much for me, and I'm blessed by that because God has allowed her to make the right choice by allowing me to be her husband. None other than my wife, Miss Terry Marsh. And with that, I want to say to God be the glory. We got some interesting topics tonight. You heard from Congressman Danny Davis. That's an elder that I respect very, very much. And like he stated, and I'm 100% in support of what all the other business leaders, spiritual leaders, other elected officials, and community leaders as well as community activists, young and old, we all must support the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, to help make her one of the greatest mayors in the city of Chicago. I saw a very interesting movie about 2 days ago. It's called The Best of Friends. You know, the best of enemies. I'm thinking about when you have the best of friends agree to disagree. The best of friends can come together when they mad at one another. But this movie was a true story. And the name of it was The Best of Enemies. Picture the best of enemies coming together to make a situation better for all those that's involved within the community. That's what I believe will happen with Mayor Lori Lightfoot being the mayor, with all of us supporting her because of the best interest for the residents of the city of Chicago. I'm going to be in support of her like I was every other mayor that was before her, dealing with the same issues that's going to make sure that African Americans get their fair share of jobs and contracts within Mayor Lightfoot's administration, as well as on the various projects that will be springing up around the city of Chicago that's dealing with public funds. So you're hearing it from Gator. I believe that Lori Lightfoot can become the best mayor this city has ever had if we aid and assist her with helping to make this happen, whether she asks for our assistance or not. We are all residents of the city of Chicago, and she is our mayor, and we're going to stand with her 100% to aid and assist her to do the right things for all the citizens of the city of Chicago. Just like we're going to stand with the Cook County Board President to make sure that we aid and assist her so she can make sure that all the residents in the county of Cook get what's needed to help stand firm on criminal justice reform and other wonderful things that she has done in the past and is still doing. Just like we're going to support our governor, J.B. Pritzker, and his efforts to make the state a better state behind what the previous governor has done to this state. But all of those elected officials got to be held accountable for making sure that the state, the county, and the city is conducive and gonna do better when it comes to helping African Americans get their fair share of jobs and contracts. And I'm saying African American because I heard the mayor, when she was the mayor-elect, make the statement about what happened with the Lincoln Yards, and everyone, even the governor's office, okay, even the county board president, when it comes to jobs and contracts, they always speak about the women and the minorities getting their fair share of the contracts. But when they make them statements, they are excluding the African Americans getting their fair jobs and contracts. So just because black is not in the rainbow, black is real, black is a fact, and blacks are not getting their fair share of jobs and contracts. That's known as the black agenda. Caller, I see you. Could you please state your name?
Yeah, James.
Hey, James.
I don't think things gonna change. Okay, now when Donald Trump got in office, they talk about he gonna change, but he didn't change. And when Lightfoot get into office, I don't think see nothing change. More violence and more killing. And I think the media is part of it. And they cover it up too. They cover up stuff too.
Right. Well, you know, James.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct, because you're saying what I'm saying. But one of the things I know, with this new piece that didn't happen, there's individuals that's in place to make sure that she do what she told them they were going to do in order to get their support. And we got to stand behind Willie Wilson, because Willie Wilson is on her transition team, to let all the other individuals that's on her transition team know that Willie Wilson is the conduit, if that's the correct word, to let the mayor know that these are the concerns of African Americans. Okay? All right? And the church leadership need to reach out to Willie and let him know that they support him as being the one to take it to the mayor. That way it ain't a host of everybody going. The one that brought you to the dance is the one you're supposed to leave from the dance with. Okay? It's time for unity that's purposely focused on the African American agenda being addressed and adhered to. Okay? For too long, we haven't been demanding. Now we're in the demanding stage. Okay? She has to show that she is willing to become the greatest mayor of all time. And she can. If she deal with the individuals that supported her to get there, and listen to those who may have been against her getting there, because now she's the mayor of everyone in the city of Chicago. You follow what I'm saying? So we got to aid and assist her. Okay? We may see some things that she don't see, and we got to take up that slack. Okay? If it's going to help better the residents in the city of Chicago, inclusive of African Americans. When they talk about the schools, they always push out there about how the education is not fair for African Americans. You follow me? You know what I mean? So my thing is this: I was glad to see that she was willing to keep Ms. Jackson on as the CPS CEO. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that she's willing to keep Superintendent Johnson on, especially coming into the summer with all the violence that's going to happen. And I believe that if they listen to the people within those communities and with their resources, they can help tie down a lot of the violence that's in the city. Because one thing for sure, like you know and everyone else know, they put it on Facebook Live what they're going to do to somebody before they do it. Everybody know when you hear the word it's a retaliatory shooting, the only way they can say that is if they know who shot at who first. And on a real another serious note, I am glad. I want to say hooray, hooray to the mayor. Hooray, hooray to our staff to help get elected. Hooray, hooray to all the individuals that's coming to the righteous conclusion that the only way to come to a righteous solution is that we all aid and assist Lori to become the greatest mayor that Chicago has ever had. Now, we see where this vicious attack is constantly on Kim Foxx. And we see where it's being driven by the fraternal order police, their supporters, the white supremacists, their supporters, the Trumpeteers, their supporters. Pure, unadulterated hate towards a black woman. I understand why a bunch of corrupt police officers want to get rid of Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx because of the 83 individuals that she has freed based on the fact that it was corrupt police officers. One of them was African American, one of them was a Hispanic that planted drugs on individuals and guns on individuals and brought about all this wrongful conviction that has to now be overturned. Now I see where the people within Cook County understand that we need to keep Kim Foxx in order for criminal justice reform to continue within the county of Cook and in the city of Chicago especially. I want to say hooray to everyone that's coming together to make sure that we re-elect Kim Foxx, the Cook County State's Attorney. This is no time to be neutral in this when you see police officers protest the state's attorney and members of that group says that Laquan McDonald, instead of being murdered and shot 16 times, should have been shot 18 times or 20 times. We can't have an individual that's supporting those individuals to have say-so or sway over who the next state's attorney is going to be. Or we're going to end up with cover-ups and prosecutorial misconduct and officers getting away. And I know what I'm talking about. In the case of Ivan Smith and Javan Deloney and Terrence Brooks, Ivan Smith and Javan Deloney was tortured by John Burge. And two other individuals were tortured by John Burge. Two of them got acquitted. One of them was tortured so bad that his testicles was destroyed. The other two that was acquitted end up getting $100,000 reparation because the city came together and gave so many guys that was tortured by John Burge $100,000 apiece in reparations because they was tortured by Chicago police. This assistant state's attorney, who is now a judge, went to Tennessee, I believe it is, with two officers that's known for torturing individuals to go and get Ivan Smith. And the conclusion from the torture commission is that Ivan Smith was tortured by these two officers. The assistant state's attorney went with these two officers out of town, and they brought a stenographer, a court reporter with them, and came back. Now he's a judge. This same assistant state's attorney that's now is a judge, I believe his name is Charles Burns or Chuck Burns. All of this came out in a federal document. I think they call it FD 302 or something like that, where an assistant state's attorney, another assistant state's attorney, let it be known that what this state's attorney was doing in the case of the Inglewood Four. The Inglewood Four were tortured, and they were released because they was wrongfully convicted. And this assistant state's attorney, former assistant state's attorney, Burns, Charles or Chuck Burns, was engaged in that. And when that document was unsealed, then all that truth came out. And that's why the Inglewood Four are free. Criminal justice reform is working in Cook County. And just like they got rid of one judge, hopefully they'll get rid of that judge because he's a bad judge. And that evidence about former assistant state's attorney Burns, because Ivan Smith was tortured, he implicated Terrence Brooks, and he needs to be free. Mr. Brooks is coming up for a hearing. Hopefully he get a new trial. Hopefully he'll be able to call former assistant state's attorney, went up under Kim Foxx. There's now a judge, will be called as a witness by the defendant. The officers that tortured him will be called as witnesses by the defendant. The reason those other 83 men were freed is because the bad officers were so tainted that the state's attorneys couldn't even call them to come in and testify to the evidence that they said that they had got because they were rotten to the core. That's what criminal justice reform is about. That's why this onslaught of getting rid of Kim Foxx is to help eradicate criminal justice reform, which is good for everyone in the county of Cook, especially the city of Chicago. I want to say hooray, hooray for Kim Foxx asking for the Cook County Inspector General to come in and do a review because of what happened with this guy Smollett. And I'd like to publicly ask Dorothy Brown to let everybody know what the order entails in order to get a record sealed. I'm asking Dorothy Brown to let everyone know, because she was the one that helped write that order, or probably wrote the order herself, in order for a person's record to get sealed. The only way you can get a record expunged is if you only have arrest. You can't get your record expunged if you got a conviction on that. Be it a plea deal, be it whatever it is. The only way you can get your record sealed is if you got a conviction. If I'm wrong, Dorothy Brown, come explain it to me and the rest of the people of Cook County. That should be your next press conference. And another thing, I want to say all the voters that did come out to vote, however way your vote went, I'm glad that you did not choke. I'm glad that you came out to vote. It wasn't so much about how many people came out. The fact of the matter is, those that did, they came out and they voted. The people spoke. We all listened to them or heard them. It's upon us, the people, to help make the government and those that's elected by us to represent us, whether we voted for them or not, to do what's right and fair for the residents in the city of Chicago. So for everyone that's wondering how I gave a feel, even if she didn't want to shake my hand or take a picture with me, I ain't hung up on that. I'm agenda prone. And my agenda, and everyone else's agenda in the African American community, is fair jobs, fair share of jobs and contracts within this administration for African Americans, women, and minorities. Fair jobs and contracts for African Americans, women, and minorities whenever public funds are involved in any projects, be they downtown, be they in the outskirts of the county of Cook, be that they in the state of Illinois. We, African Americans, in particular, shouldn't be the lowest one on the totem pole when it comes to getting fair jobs and contracts for African Americans, for women, and for minorities. And I think that we can get that. We earn that. So people that elected Lori, don't let us slide on that, because we want to help make her a great mayor. People that elected Tony Presswinkle, County Board President, don't let us slide on that. We want her to be a great County Board President. And people, by all means, now that J.B. Pritzker is no longer a candidate, he's the governor. Don't let him slide on that. We want him to be the greatest governor this state has ever had. And the only way they can do that is that they legislate or that they make it known, that they are publicly known, that they are willing, because they are able, to make sure that African Americans, women, and minorities get their fair share of jobs and contracts within their administration, and that they make sure, because they can, that African Americans get their fair share, African Americans, women, and minorities get their fair share of jobs and contracts and all public funded projects. We can do it. We can get better education for African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, everyone that are residents of the city of Chicago, the county of Cook, and the state of Illinois. All we got to do is demand it, stand on it, keep their feet to the fire. It's a new day because the people are aware of what's happening, and if Gator can agree with what Danny and all others are saying, you can agree too, especially because you didn't choke, you came out, and you made a decision to vote. And with that, I want to say, to God be the glory. My time is up, but it ain't over. And please, go see that movie, The Best of Enemies, true story. And when you see it, you'll see our enemies came together and made a bad situation a good situation. Peace, hug your babies, love them, keep your eyes on your daughters. And we all got to come together to help stop the senseless shootings and killings. To God be the glory.